Glad to be back with you this week. I hope you had a fantastic weekend and a great start to this week. It's a little rainy down here, so it's gray and dreary. So I hope if you're living anywhere near me, you're doing things to make sure you keep your energy up. Oh man, I don't know. I promise I keep changing my settings to try to see what this drop rate thing is, and so I keep checking it. I'm gonna just have to keep trying until we figure it out. I still need to buy some new cords because I think that might be one of the issues too. I bought some cheap cords, so I need to invest in better cords. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It said, what it's saying is, oh, I keep getting these notifications, man, and I promise you, I keep changing my settings, so I don't know what it is. I'm gonna keep changing it. I'm gonna go ahead and give me some new chords this week, so hopefully next week the chords will help or something. Oh, maybe it's time to upgrade that. We've upgraded almost everything else, so. But again, this week we are going to finish the 7 spaces of healing. The last space that we didn't cover was forgiveness. This week's chakra or energy point is I got an interesting visualization. So the element for that is light, and the color is indigo, which I describe as hard. So I need to get some other lighting so I can get indigo a little better. But this is close as use. Now we got lag issues, and I promise you, my internet speed has gone up technically. You know what I mean? So it should be better. Gonna do a our breath, finish our 7 spaces of healing. We're also going to start discussing this idea of what is good for the soul. So we're gonna start with the bowl as always. Rain sticks. No, Liberty, so glad to have you here for a little bit. The ball. What do you mean? The big purple drum that I played last time that kind of looks like a ball. I have a small green one. You know, it's funny too, because it popped in my mind to play the small green one for a second, but it's not in here. We're gonna start with the bowl. I'm not sure. Honestly, man, listen, brother. You asking me questions, I don't even know. So I don't even know how to get it. And so I know I've set up some stuff. I don't know. It's funny too because I've had people give me stuff, but it just doesn't show. It just doesn't show it on screen yet. So it's a Streamlabs thing. All right, here we go. Liberty, he's not really to keep it 100 because it's not bad on Facebook. So you don't get what he's dealing with. On Twitch, it's bad. And I catch it a couple of times on TikTok, but on Twitch, it's like I think that's the one that's dropping all the dropping all the frames, but it's not happening like that on Facebox at all, which is interesting. But we've gotten it down because I guess it's at 25% or something. Um, we're gonna do 369, and we're gonna do that 2 times. So again, on my count of 3, you're gonna breathe in, hold it for 3, release, breathe in, hold it for 6, release, breathe in, hold it for 9. Where's this shadow coming from? Then release. And we're gonna do 2 cycles of that. See, like I said, it's wild on TikTok and it's wild on Twitch, but on Facebook and surprisingly, because it's normally wild on YouTube when it start messing up, but it's not wild on YouTube either. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but we're gonna keep moving forward. So on my count of 3, 1, 2, 3, breathe in, hold it for 3, 1, 2, 3, release. Breathe in, hold it for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, release. Breathe in, hold it for 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more time. Breathe in, hold it for 3, 2, 3, release. Breathe in, hold it for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, release. Breathe in, hold it for 9, 2, 7, 8, 9, and release. So in your comfortable position, your mind, eyes closed or open, but start picturing the visualization in your mind. When I was a kid, one of my favorite shows was the Care Bears. Shows like that are trying to teach you. One of my favorite parts about the Care Bear is their powers was the gift of light. And each Care Bear had a different power that resonated with their light. So you had rainbows, you had hearts, you had clovers, and each different light created a different energy. And all of their lights together created the rainbow, right? So in your visualization, I want to have you picture yourself standing in some place that you just kind of, it's just kind of normal. It doesn't make you feel anything. It doesn't necessarily evoke any emotions, right? And then I want you to look down at your chest. And on your chest, I want you to visualize an energy that resonates with you, whether it be love, whether it be resilience, whether it be thinking, whether it be abundance, whether it be grace, whether it be forgiveness. I want you to visualize this light building up right there inside of your chest. And as that light builds up, I want you to imagine that light shoot beautiful. You're watching it as the light that shines from you resonates and grows beauty in the things that you look at. And as you recognize that this beauty is growing, I want you to visualize that light turning, giving you the energy that you just gave to the world. you are resonated back to yourself. And as that energy fills your spirit, I want you to repeat after me. I trust my intuition. My imagination is powerful. I think clearly. My third eye sees all. I trust my intuition. My imagination is powerful. I think clearly. My third eye sees all. Hold on. Okay, shit. My seer, I see you got some more friends joining. Brother, you got the power to do that for yourself. And that's what this is about. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for joining. Follow, subscribe. I don't even know. It's funny because normally it gets some sort of notification. My stream bot's supposed to be going ham right now. But last week we left off with the last space. Well, it's not the last space ever, but it's the last of our 7 spaces of healing. And that space was oh, y'all not friends. Okay, cool. Was a space for forgiveness. So we want to discuss how to recognize a space for forgiveness. One thing that a space for forgiveness will always have is open communication. People communicating openly, vulnerably, without that fear. They're open to say the things that they think and not afraid that they won't be heard. They understand that in this space, there's an open communication. In a space for forgiveness, there is empathy and understanding, right? So you go into that with good intentions and you anticipate good intentions and you try to connect with the people in this space, or you see people connecting in this space in a way that provides empathy for their situations and understanding for the things that they've been through. Keisha, so glad to have you here. You need to tell our boy to get on here so I can go ahead and read his energy since he out trying to be a hero. Give us some love, Liberty. We ain't seen her in a while. In a space for forgiveness, as I was saying, just like a space for risk. A space for forgiveness is not judgmental. People understand that we all have our own path in life to take, and we all have made our own mistakes. And we understand that because of that, we are not in any space to be able to judge someone have our own cross to bear, right? So it's non-judgmental. Mistake 1,000 times on this show, but we talk about it a lot in my work. But the Chinese symbol for crisis also means opportunity. So in the mistakes, in a space of non-judgmental, those mistakes are seen as opportunities to grow and maybe even try again or to change and try differently, right? In a space for forgiveness, it is a supportive community. The people are invested in each other's well-being and healing. It has this semblance of love in the air because it's that compassion, that empathy, that understanding They want to see everyone in this environment achieve whatever goals that they have set for themselves, right? In a space for forgiveness, you will see that that space has patience and time. We are patient with each other and we provide each other the space and time to walk this journey because healing is a journey, it is not an event. And once you heal one thing, all you did is just clear the way to find out what else needs your attention, right? So forgiveness is a journey. Most importantly, in a space of forgiveness, there is positive reinforcement. I know there's a thought pattern or a thought process where when you're doing what you're supposed to or doing what is expected of you, there is no need for positive affirmations, right? But in a space for forgiveness, we recognize that we encourage and support the behaviors we want to see. So if a person actually steps out to you, has done something to you, and maybe wronged you in some way, but the person has taken accountability and also recognized and taken steps. I'm sorry. Listen, my seer. Oh my God, listen, we finding out my okay. So note to self, I gotta turn it down, right? I, I gotta turn down the security a little bit because it is not supposed to block you like that. I apologize. You know, I guess our work environment is a perfect place to to use as an example of how to approach mistakes as seen as opportunities. A lot of mistakes are necessarily seen as punitive in that environment. That bot is like, listen, I don't know what you're doing, brother. But thank you for showing me that my bot is working. I had no idea. It's like, hey man, cut that out. I did it because occasionally we have those people and they'll try to put in some weird link. So I'm trying to stop those people. I know, right? That's the funny thing. You don't say anything abnormal at all. So I gotta turn it down. Oh God. See, listen, Donald Trump definitely has to have some sort of connection with these companies with internet providers because you don't get blocked for saying that. But that was a perfect example of our work environment using missing mistakes as an opportunity. And it definitely does if you are in an environment. Parents do this a lot of time too. When you're in that environment and someone does not see your mistakes as an opportunity to do better, they definitely don't give you that mistakes or opportunities to do better. And you'll more than likely use the same thing self from that mistake. But in a space of forgiveness, we forgiven ourselves in this is positive relationship, right? Now, with that, there's also boundaries. So you definitely need to have some sort of boundaries because a space of forgiveness does definitely have boundaries, right? But mistakes are seen as opportunities. Now, how do I become a space of forgiveness? The first thing that you must do to become a space for forgiveness is practice self forgiveness. It's crazy because it's funny because not even crazy. It's the irony of life sometimes. Nope, not the irony. The synchronicity of life. We were talking about encouraging one of our brothers to make sure, and telling them how he's offered forgiveness to the world. A lot of us, we forgive other people. We practice forgiveness on others. But when it's time to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, we struggle with that. And we feed into negative thoughts, negative reinforcement. But the first person who you need to forgive is yourself. You did as best you could with the tools that you had. And now that you have more tools, now that you have more tools, you can practice them. Yeah, I must say, I don't even know what is going on. It is going ham with you. The next thing that you do, just like in a space of forgiveness, there's empathy. You must give yourself some empathy. Practice that empathy with yourself, and then it'll make it a little bit easier to see the beauty and the value of it when you give it to others, because you know how important it is, because you share that energy with yourself, right? You need to communicate openly, right? And I say that because on this show we talk about are, and a perfect example of this is I had a friend who started therapy, right? And one of their homework assignments was to describe who they are. Who are you? As simple as that question is, the answer can be very complex. So when I'm talking to this friend and they're telling me, only this time I'm gonna change it. You're not a Ferrari on this stream. I don't know what's going on. Um, as they were doing this homework, they were talking about doing the homework, and they realized this was a moment for them to be honest with themselves, openly communicate with themselves. So they noticed on their list, or when we start thinking about ourselves, we start rattling off all the great things that we can think of about ourselves, right? But then when it comes to those not so great things, we don't really like to accept accountability for those things. We definitely don't like to vocalize those things. And we definitely carry a fear of judgment when it comes to those things. But when you become a space of forgiveness, you understand that these are things that you must forgive yourself for. So you have to also communicate openly with yourself. Be patient. Again, I will repeat over and over. Healing is a journey, not an event. Jesus Christ. You have so many opportunities to recognize new things and grow in new ways that you never even expected, that you never saw coming. But they will all help you become the best version of yourself. So healing is a journey. The next thing you have to do after you've practiced self-forgiveness, you have to model forgiveness. And in being able to model forgiveness, you have to be able to recognize the triggers that show you that you are not in a space of forgiveness, right? You have to know what those things look like within yourself. You have to know what your actions look like when you are not, when you have not truly forgiven, right? So I talked about a friend before, and I think our friendship had ran its course. But one of the reasons why it felt like that, because it was a space, because that space of forgiveness was not truly there. So when it came time for this person to model forgiveness, they couldn't do it. And it was easy for them to tell themselves that they had forgiven me because they allowed me to be a part of their life. But when certain things came up and they were triggered, they jumped right back in that time machine and travel right back to that moment where they felt wrong. And that will let me know that they have not forgiven. Right? So you have to become a forgiving person, right? And lastly, You need to create a supportive environment. Again, this healing process is a communal event. It is for everybody. It is not just for you to do alone. Because if you could do it all by yourself, you wouldn't be where you are. You'd already have the healing completed. But again, this is a rap song that I like, and he says in the song that if you want to know about yourself, you got to ask someone else. You cannot be the sole judge of you, just like you cannot be the sole help to you, right? Even biblically, when man was alone, the universe and God saw the need for a helpmate. Even in animals, they didn't even make them alone, right? So there is no need for you to think that you can do this process alone. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to we're doing pretty good on time. I'll try not to ramble on too much. So I think our next series is going to be a little bit about, honestly, why are we discussing what was good from the soul? Just being transparent and vulnerable with you in the conversation in the men's group. This was a question that was posed. And I think in part of this process of healing, one of the things that we have to do is, and to recognize the things that replenish, build our soul, the things that are good for our soul, right? So that's why I think about it. That's why. Another reason why is because we have normalized so many of our dysfunctions that we don't even recognize when our soul is calling out for help, right? Because we've rationalized as its cries as normal, right? So, early, as a matter of fact, on Saturday just passed, I talked to you all, I went to the doctor last week, blah, blah, blah. So, ran some blood tests. Overall, a tank that had never been there before, right? So Saturday, I get the second part of my blood work, and it has a note on there telling me that the doctor's office is going to reach out to me to discuss this new finding. So this new finding is me being diagnosed with anemia, right? And it's crazy because once I saw that diagnosis, it wound up giving me a ton of clarity on my life, right? So I really think that I'm a person that has had it for a long time, right? But I think I'm one of those people that has been on the lower end. So I'm low end normal. And generally when I go to the doctor, it's just above that threshold. So it's no reason to bring attention. But this is the first time I went to the doctor and it was below that threshold. It wasn't a lot, but it was below 13, right? And that was enough to have my doctor say, hey, you might need to do something about it. And when he said information and just trying to understand what this means to me or what this means, right? I even called a friend and got advice because she's a person that I know that knows the most about living your life with anemia, right? Sherry, so glad to have you. I promise you, I was just thinking about you earlier, and I was like, I need to reach out to Sherry because I miss you. But I'm glad you showed up at the perfect time. So this is going to explain some of the reason why I've been so absent in my own life, right? So I was just saying, I got the anemia. So I started looking at it, and it's crazy because I think that it's something I've been dealing with because what made me start thinking about it is I joined this group, and they were talking about how iron deficiency is can cause premature gray, right? And that just kind of resonated with my spirit because obviously I'm prematurely gray, right? But I know I've never been diagnosed with anemia or iron deficiency or something like that. So I was like, I don't know, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, I do think that some of this gray is genetic, right? But I don't think all of it is genetic. So that made me start thinking about it. So then when I get diagnosed, it give me a clarity that maybe I'm a little bit correct. I've always dealt with cold hands, but abnormalities in my life, and just said that this great prematurely is genetic when it could have been a sign of my soul crying out that I need healing, right? I've always dealt with cold hands and cold feet. My hands are my feet really. My hands too, they are just two extremes. Either they can be sweaty or they just be frozen. Sometimes they sweaty and frozen. So I've always dealt with that. And I know they always connected that type of symptom to anemia. But since I had never diagnosed it, I just thought it wasn't anything. And I remember there was this saying I was growing up, and people still say it to this day about cold hands, warm heart. That is even a sign of society normalizing dysfunction. So I even had that to fall back on to be able to be like, well, all this going on with me is normal. And one thing that has been driving me crazy lately has been low energy, right? Um, I've been napping. I love a good nap. I'm a nap king. So one thing I'm gonna do is take a nap. But I can't even say how long it's been. It's almost been like it's been uncontrollable over the last couple of months. Well, you give me enough time sitting still, and then I even think about in my past, there are periods in my life where I would say that about myself. Now, you give me 5 minutes sitting down, I'm going to sleep, right? And I'm recognizing now that was me normalizing the dysfunction and missing my spirit calling out for help because it's not normal. It wasn't like narcolepsy. I just tied into wow, I've been working harder. I've been investing a lot of energy. So it makes sense that I'd be a little extra sleepy. And I have been hard on myself because I've had low energy, right? I haven't had the energy to do a lot of different things. Even stuff as simple as posting. I haven't done that in a minute. I got videos and content all in my phone that I haven't even had the energy to put together. And I'll get some energy just enough because I'm already hot energy. So when my energy is low, it's still normally higher than most people's, but it's easy for me to ration things like I've been expending a lot of energy or I've been needing this energy from over here to deal with this. I've even said it to you all as it relates to the family issues that we discussed. I needed to shuffle some of this energy from over here to be able to pour into myself and my family. Listen, I got it. I just made a new video today, right? But girl, I promise you, once I got that that notification, where they told me that, it really started making sense. Why I haven't had the energy to do anything because my iron is low, right? And what helped me a ton was talking to, I'll tell you, it was a pretty black girl. And she told me a little bit about it. And as she talked about it, I was like, stuff started to make sense, right? Um, she told me about the sleepy part. And I was like, oh, okay. I have been a little more sleepy than normal. She also helped me to understand how cravings come along with that, right? I had normalized this idea of cravings for so long. I think I even said it. I've been going crazy on chocolate since October, since Halloween, right? As she told me about her cravings, I know it started sugar. I had normalized that because I like baked goods, I like cookies and stuff like that. But there'll be periods where I'll be going crazy over it, and I'm craving it, right? Like I just can't stop. And I never knew that cravings like that could be a sign of anemia because they only tell you about the people who eat ice. But that is not the only way it shows up. But cravings, deep cravings, like them goddamn maternity cravings, are something that they do, right? So, and as you can tell now, I have a little more energy. So I can post now. We gonna get to it. Listen, I am thankful right now that I had that light shone on the darkness. And now I'm doing things and I got a little more energy. So, one of the reasons why we want to discuss what's good for the soul is because learning new things about yourself, learning new ways to help yourself can give you this sense of gratitude. And your higher self, the best version of yourself, definitely wants to carry an energy of thankfulness for the goodness in your life, the fact that you're still breathing, the ways that you can make things better. You know what I mean? It gives you an opportunity to build and reshape this relationship with gratitude, which is one good thing for the soul, right? The other funny thing about, as I was talking about the anemia, I said that, yo, the crazy thing about anemia is it can have symptoms and having periods of sadness, or if you're trying to approach it as maybe I'm a little depressed right now, requires one medicine, right? So anemia can have you feeling lethargic. And like I said, I haven't had the energy to do much of anything. I clean up a little bit, but much of anything, I just kind of, I get up with my homeboy because I told him I was going to. But other than that, man, I literally have been napping. I'll get videos, make sure to still do that, but I haven't had the energy to do that. And the wild thing about it is, with all this going on, I could be like, well, maybe it ain't. I don't think it's depression because I could recognize that my life is good right now. I don't really have much to complain about. So I didn't understand why I'm having these symptoms of depression with no real reason or no space that I can point to that would be like, okay, maybe I am dealing with depression. Even when it comes to the relationship with my mom, I had questions about that. I was always wondering, like, why am I handling this so good? But I found out later why I'm handling it so good. I recognizing that life was good, but I still have this feeling of this lethargic feeling had me mentally and spiritually confused. Something that was crazy that I learned about anemia. One of the symptoms of that is elevated heart rate. And occasionally my heart would start beating, right? And I start doing breathing exercises and things like that. Not even be curious, Like, yo, why is it not quite working the way it should work? But I did not know that elevated heart rate, random times, just do. You should feel like anxiety, like you anxious. And sometimes I could be like, okay, this is something I could be anxious about, but I would never tie it to anemia because I didn't know. I just thought I dealt with anxiety occasionally, and I've learned the tools to dissipate anxiety, right? About the cravings, I had normalized these cravings, which were also some attention and not. Because I'm telling you all the things that's going on is a reminder. Now, wait till I get to the end of the synchronicity of life, girl. Whoo. Listen, you know firsthand on this healing journey, if you really open to it, life will give you a couple of uppercuts. And if you're honest about who you are, the people that you interact, your experiences are really holding a mirror up to you and showing you who you are. And it's up to you to accept what the universe is showing you. And it's your choice if you want to be different, the same, or better, right? So I had normalized this idea of cravings, and it was actually my body calling for help, right? The most ironic thing about this is, why is somebody texting me now? Is it okay? I think one of the reasons this conversation is important is because when we've normalized the the cries of our spirit, we are very much likely to not provide what it needs. And this is about misdiagnosing what your spirit needs. So, for all this time, when these things would come up, I would give it something different. My spirit is asking for iron. I'm giving it sleep. And the funny thing about it was when I went crazy on chocolate, I had switched almost over to exclusively to dark chocolate. And as I did my research, I learned that dark chocolate also inhibits the absorption of iron in the body. So I'm like, yo, I just been wilding out, just eating dark chocolate, hurting myself, right? But I recognized that I had this diagnosis allowed me to recognize that I've been feeding myself the wrong medicine. And now I can give myself the right medicine. And in a couple of days, I can already tell the difference. I know how long. I still take my naps because I love a nap. My cravings ain't the same. My diet is easy to change. It seemed like I getting that back in order, working that back in order. It feels like my discipline is strengthening. My body is thanking me. That gratitude that we talked about earlier, right? The thing about anemia and something that I thought was so funny about this process. Remember I said the synchronicities of life. So mine isn't that bad. So my doctor just said take a little folic acid and move on, right? So I gotta go in a couple of weeks. What did it say? Oh, in a couple of weeks so he can check, see if this happened. So I'm looking for this folic acid, and I keep seeing prenatal, birth, prenatal. And in relating to two women, right? And I said that this separation in my family is giving me the opportunity to reshape my relationship with the feminine energy. And that included the feminine energy within myself. So now I recognize for years the feminine energy in myself has been asking for, crying out for attention. And I have been ignoring it. And how life is the synchronicity shows up is because I said this. And the universe is genuinely giving me an opportunity because it's revealing to me the ways that I need to work a little bit more. Right. Go back. I might go back. Let's see where we at. Because I wanted to talk a little bit about forgiveness, that space of forgiveness. It's funny because I think forgiveness was a great one to end on because it is a space or one of those, it is a space that I'm working to reshape and build a different relationship with that word of forgiveness. And it's funny, although I've gotten a lot better in forgiveness, the universe shows me opportunities and times where, and I promise you, I used to work one of my first job, and I had this supervisor, and to this day, you can see the energy on my face. How I think about him is his name. But that dude literally fired me because I didn't help him fire someone else. And I was a person, I don't really like drama. I be trying to avoid that. I am smart enough that I see it building, I look away. So I seen my co-teacher and that little kid about to get into it. And I turned away to watch the other kids. So I can be honest when they ask me, did you see what happened? He was so mad that I kept saying, I don't know. I was supervising the children on the playground, which I was. I wasn't sitting there watching what she was doing. But that dude fired me. And on that day, I promise you, I was probably 25 years old. On that day, I said, if I ever see that man again in real life, it is going to be on site. And I know I present myself with ties and all. I present myself as a certain way. But if you've known me since I was that age, you know I've taken years to cultivate this because I promise still getting over this where I can be like, this is my first time ever saying it. If I was to see that man today, it would not be on sight. I recognize that I was not moving in the space of forgiveness, but I can still put my paws on this man from something that happened to me when I was 25. And I know way more stuff than I did then. You know what I mean? I know way more stuff, but I recognize that I am not modeling forgiveness, and it's a space that I needed to still work on my forgiveness, right? And then also, life showed me in another way because my old job, man, it was this lady there who started a bunch of nonsense, right? That led to me leaving, lied on me, did my name dirty, and I know it was her. You know what I mean? And I got a little bit of validation when I found out that, okay, listen, I do know jujitsu. And girl, I already visualized a nice body triangle and a good rear naked choke because I know he wasn't going to ever see anything. And then I know wrestling too, so I'm good on takedowns, one arm, two arm, one leg, two leg, 5 minutes. I'm good on that stuff. You know what I mean? Outside of the hands is rated E. So yes, jujitsu would have been crazy. But I'm not going to do nothing to that man. Life has been good to me. I can let that go. Right. So that lady started all that mess at the job, and I'm no longer there. Then I got my validation because somebody from my old job called the federal government and said they don't like the person that replaced me and they want me back. And I know the only person who was in their wrong mind enough to do something like that is that same woman, right? So then I find out that this woman is deciding to retire. And my first thought was, that lady gonna start all that mess up the organization, and then retire, right? And I recognize with that being my first statement, my first thought, there is a space of unforgiveness. I'm still harboring some resentment. And the wild thing about that is why I can recognize I'm holding that and it's okay to let that go because I firmly believe that that was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. Without that catalyst, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you all now. I wouldn't have the job that I love. I wouldn't be creating something that I love. I wouldn't be building the family with you now. It was the best thing that happened. I told you, I remember driving home and riding home like, yo, I hated that job. Hated that job. Best thing that happened to me. So I recognized there was no reason to hold on to that sense of unforgiveness. And the only reason why I'm doing it is because it's what I've always done. But now we're shaping and building a new forgiveness, right? So back to why are we discussing what's good for the same things, right? Yeah, listen. Where did I go from that job? That was crazy. That was one of the first incidents that got me to looking at doing something, jumping out on a leap of faith. I lost that job, and then I started working for, oh my God, this smaller company, right? Did I go there? Yeah, I started working for this smaller company. And man, it was time where we ain't even know we was gonna get our paycheck. We used to be like staff just running down to the bank to make sure, because it was first come, first serve. Whoever go to their bank and cash their check at that bank, you get that money first. But if you late, you ain't gonna have no money. So then I went to that. Then I left that because it seemed smart to leave something like that, right? And I went to what I call the crazy house. I was working with those kids with those level 3 residential facilities. And I learned a lot about working with them kids. But if you work in an environment that long, too long, at some point is you can't tell the difference between the clients. So when I left that, that's when I went to that I went to another small agency. And these fools had their account, so they couldn't pay nobody. And then they started trying to furlough. I told you that's how I found out what furlough mean. What that mean? I remember they dropped furlough. What that mean? It mean you can't get unemployment and they not gonna give you no check. So it means you're broke. Right. So I fought for that. But it definitely gave me life lessons, understanding. It all helped me to get to here. And why I can talk to y'all. I've lived 53 in this lifetime, right? So that is one of the things that gives me the confidence to sit in front of you all now, is because I've endured a lot, right? So one of the main reasons we're talking about, I do want to finish this, even though we're over the hour, I don't even care. But one of the main reasons that we're talking about what is good for the soul is we are time travelers, right? And it's funny because how they talk about time travel, they make it seem so mystic, right? But we know firsthand that you don't need no mystery machine to time travel, right? Whenever we revisit the memories, we are time traveling, right? And a brother from the men's group that I always talk about, he gave me a good perspective on how to see it. Is when we walking the timeline, when we're walking the timeline of our lives, you know, there is something that you experience that when it happens to you now, or when you think about it, you immediately go right back to that space and time where it all feels real, right? And one of the more important things, we keep revisiting these moments, these fractures in the timeline, why they won't go away. It is because there is a piece of who we are, who we are supposed to be, to ensure we would be. We left the goodness, a good piece of ourselves in those moments. Sometimes it was stolen from us, what makes it even harder to have those memories and time travel back to those moments. But it is essential that we dive into those memories and those moments so that we can find the pieces of us that those moments have taken from us, right? And it is imperative that we have these pieces, because those pieces will be the pieces that we need as we go forward. And the reason why you can't let these things go, even when you try to put them to the side, it is your spirit crying out for you to see the opportunities to find what part of you was lost and bring it back to this present time. Pick it up and bring it with you. If your innocence was lost, you can go and get that. If your confidence was lost, you can go and get that. Right? And you must get these pieces, because these pieces are the pieces that make you whole, right? And all of that is about something else I was going to bring. We got a new word we're going to talk about today that we haven't really used. But also, we need like I said, we need those pieces of ourselves that we left in those experiences, right? Also, we are discussing what is good for the soul because we recognize that we are going through a spiritual awakening, right? And the things that we used to do no longer resonates with our spirit. Denying, coping, blocking, carrying, ignoring, anything that we used to do does not work for us anymore as we vibrate higher, right? And one of the brothers in the group helped me recognize that in this spiritual awakening that we're dealing with, we also have to recognize that there is a space, a gap between our spiritual development and our physical development. Your spirit will get there first. Give yourself the grace and patience to let your physical catch up, right? So, perfect example is, we've been working together alone, for a year and a half now, right? We're getting closer to 2 years. But we were working together a year and a half. So you know how much spiritual and emotional development we've gone together, right? And me being diagnosed with that anemia is letting me know that my physical still needs time to catch up to where my spiritual is. So then I can also give myself grace, what is good for the soul, and patient as I understand that these two things are happening simultaneously, but at a very different rate, right? And why these 4 or 5 things? Because when we recognize the dysfunctions that we've normalized, when we recognize how our spirit is calling out and we begin to give our bodies the medicine that our spirit so deeply craves, when we begin to recognize that there are multiple processes happening at the same time but at different spaces, and we work to make these things work in conjunction, and we address the things that are good for the soul, it gives you fulfillment, a fulfilling life. So that is why we are discussing what is good for the soul. We are seeking fulfillment, right? So family, I appreciate you. That was I think that was pretty good. I think I don't know how we're going to go into this. I'm not even gonna lie to you, family. I do a lot of work to set up the shows, but I don't always know what we're going to do next, right? I allow that to organically develop through interactions with people or the absence of that, right? So we will continue on what is good for the soul. We talked about why. We're definitely going to start trying to start pointing at things to help us recognize what is good for our soul, right? So that's what we're gonna do next week. Lastly, we just pretty much finished up forgiveness. We talked about why things are good for the soul, the normalized dysfunction, the pieces of our search of a fulfilling life. I thank you all for your time. I appreciate you as always. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. If you got some time, I hope you can join us on Thursday. We're getting close to finishing up. We're getting a little close to finishing up Celestine Prophecies, and we'll figure out where we're gonna go from there. Right? Pretty glad, girl. I appreciate you as always. I told your business, not your business, but my business, in relation and how you supported me, right? Appreciate you too. Thanks for being on for a little bit. Cherry, you know it. I appreciate you as always. I got some energy so I can start being a little more present in my life again. I've been wilding out, Sherry. Even I can't even tell you the last time I done ate meat. Now that trust me, I'm gonna still eat meat. So I ain't doing that. But I've definitely been incorporating more iron and rich dishes, and I've been proud of myself about that. But thank you all, and have a great week. More iron and rich dishes. Thank you all.